What's the status?
Picture's still down, sir. They're ready to commence moonwalk on your orders.
Come in, Eagle 1. This is Mission Control granting permission to commence moonwalk.
Copy, Mission Control. Commencing moonwalk. I'm climbing down now. One final step. And yes, I am on the moon.
Yeah! All right!
So, how's it look up there, Captain Colby?
Oh boy, it sure is beautiful, sir. I can't believe it.
How about Price and McAllister?
Yes, sir. I'm stepping out onto the moon right now. This is the greatest moment of my life.
So, are we seriously not gonna land on the moon?
We never land, man. It's dangerous down there.
Yeah, we just cut the picture, circle it a couple of times, come back, and we're all freaking heroes.
Lieutenant McAllister?
Yeah, I'm on the moon too. It's freaking awesome.
Captain Price, what can you see?
I can see an inhospitable surface pockmarked with craters.
The crust is very thick.
If I may, sir, I'd like to dedicate this historic moonwalk to my grandfather, Mike Hawk.
Of course, Captain. Mike Hawk is now part of American history.
Yeah, and I can see an alien.
Lieutenant, could you repeat that?
Yeah, it's small and it's gray and it's shaking Colby's hand.
Captain Colby?
Captain Colby.
Oh my God, the alien's eating Colby.
What the hell is happening up there?
It's the alien, sir. I think it's trying to communicate.
Well, let me speak to it.
Greetings, Earthlings. Prepare to die.
The aliens are attacking! Well, DEFCON 1! Abandon mission and detonate lunar module!
But sir, you can't.
I'm sorry, Captain, we have no choice!
Wait, there is no alien. It was a mistake.
They've been brainwashed, sir. Classic alien technique.
No! This is Colby! I'm alive! We're just fooling around!
Damn it! They've taken over Colby's body! Destroy the craft!
Sir, how are we going to explain this to the press?
Don't worry about it.
We'll just say they got lost. I am so...
It's a Chinese spacewalk. A bubble rises in the pool. It's complete fraud. Here the helmet gets hit on the International Space Station and a bubble rises into the pool. Tossing some bullshit, and a bubble appears at 3:39 in this video. And it takes an odd trajectory because it's in a water pool. Houston, we have a problem. Space is broken. Sorry, US government. I have to show them the bubble. There's the bubble in the pool that we just saw. Yep, doesn't even go in a straight line. It's in a water pool. Takes a very odd trajectory because the water is actually moving around. It's not still.
You can catch these a lot in NASA videos, and the fact that these appear on camera means there's more bubbles that you're not seeing. The training for spacewalks are done in water tanks, and the actual spacewalks are fake. They're done in water tanks.
And, here on the International Space Station, they once even got caught with a scuba tank in space.
Which is the faking of spacewalks in a swimming pool. In this bit, you catch a glimpse of someone wearing a scuba tank. Scuba tanks in space?
NASA does literally nothing in space. It's all bullshit.
The video is sped up so it looks more natural. But yeah, they're underwater and the video is sped up, and they do this on the Hubble Space Telescope as well. So that's how you know the Hubble Space Telescope never existed in orbit. This is all bullshit.
Installing a corrective optics package known as CoStar, Hubble was now poised to make some of the most groundbreaking astronomical observations in history.
I need somebody to sing the Little Mermaid song under the sea. They're in a water tank.
And you know this. For years, Neil Armstrong refused to be interviewed. I found that to be one of the strangest things of anything. You would think that the first man on the moon, the national hero that he is, would have talked to everyone about the experience, about the wonder. That didn't happen.
His role model was Lindbergh, and Lindbergh became a very public person and was very much out there with his political views and all that. You'd think that Neil would have at least wanted to be a role model for the next generation. Instead, he became essentially a recluse, a hermit. And on every anniversary, they would wind him up and trot him out in public. The most interesting one was during the Clinton years at the White House on the 25th anniversary, where, do you remember what Armstrong said, the most stunning thing that an astronaut could say, and I think in this milieu get away with it?
Give us the quote.
Well, he said two things. At the start of his speech, he compared himself and the other astronauts to birds, to parrots. And he then made a joke and he said, and parrots don't fly very well. Well, what else do parrots do, George?
They repeat what they're told.
Plant his foot on the surface of the moon has been a pioneer in many ways. And Mr. Armstrong, in asking you to come to the podium, may I say that millions of Americans have admired you not only for your achievement, but for the quiet dignity with which you have conducted yourself and represented not only our country, but humankind. Ladies and gentlemen, Neil Armstrong.
Thank you, Mr. Vice President, Mr. President, members of Congress, fellow astronauts, ladies and gentlemen. Wilbur Wright once noted that the only bird that could talk was the parrot, and he didn't fly very well. So I'll be brief. Today we have with us a group of students among America's best. To you we say, we have only completed a beginning. We leave you much that is undone. There are great ideas undiscovered, breakthroughs available to those who can remove one of truth's protective layers.
To remove one of truth's protective layers. I kind of wonder what truth he's referring to.
You really like it, don't you? You're the one who said you walked on the moon when you didn't. Calling the kettle black, if I ever thought of it. Saying I misrepresented myself. Away from me. You're a coward and a liar and a thief.
You want me to knock you in the head?
Well, I want you to swear to God on the Bible that you walked on the moon.
Okay.
If you walked on the moon, we're given the opportunity to swear to God that you walked on the moon.
I'm going to give you the opportunity to get the hell knocked out of you if you don't leave me alone.
So why don't you just put the end to the record in the argument and put your hand on the Bible, swear to God you walked on the moon.
Mr. Cybro, knowing you, that's probably a fake Bible.
Well, you're talking to the wrong guy. Why don't you talk to the administrator in NASA? We're passengers. We're guys going on a flight. I don't hit people, but you're going to be on the deck unless you get...
I'm heading out. I appreciate it.
And get the hell out of the black house.
Well, take your stuff and get the fuck out. Why don't you quote me and say it's bullshit?
The shadows in the wrong place. I don't give a damn about all that shit.
They're full of shit.
Of lunar orbit being falsified.
Being falsified?
Correct. We got an unedited tape from a source at the Johnson Space Center.
Totally nonsense.
Mr. Seibel, you do not deserve answers.
If you show this publicly, you're open for a lawsuit. Okay?
Okay, I gotta show you all this here. You see this here? What we're looking at right now appears to be the Earth and the Moon revolving around it. Now, I have to ask you a question. Do you think that this is just some fake virtual reality imagery, or do you think this is real photos that are just set in stills put in succession? Let's you look at it again here. Do you think that this is something someone made in virtual reality, or do you think these are real photos that are just put in succession? Okay, well, I showed my wife this, and she thought it was completely fake. And that was before I told her that this is NASA's latest photo. This is literally NASA's latest photos. They somehow, after 40 years of not taking any photos of the Earth from space with their, what was it, 10 to 13,000 satellites out there, they finally decided to take a photo of Earth. 40 years after the fact, after all the Apollo missions, they finally said, wow, we finally are able to clear out of space and we could just take a photo. Finally. 40 years after the fact, you know, because it's so hard to take a photo when you got 13,000 satellites out in space. And this is what they gave us. Now, is it just me, or do they think we're stupid? Because that is the fakest thing I've ever seen in my life. I mean, seriously, give me a break. I think I could do a better job myself. I am not joking. I actually think I could. I actually have a background in ray tracing, and I also have a background in 3D design with CAE, Computer Aided Engineering, with ideas and unit graphics and Pro-E, all these highly expensive and complex programs for modeling. And that's really a pathetic photo, fake photo. It really looks fake to me. Doesn't it look fake to you?
This is not news. This is not an anniversary.
Well, actually it is. We found a very unique reel of footage that we have queued up to show you.
Yeah.
And it's from the mission. And to our knowledge, no one has ever seen it before.
Mm-hmm.
And it's 30 years old.
And you want me to see this while you have me on camera?
Well, and to tell us what it is. I mean, it's...
Well, I don't know why I should do that.
It's a very unique footage.
It may be that I need to see it, and then we sit down and we talk about it.
I think when you see the footage, you'll see that it's very extraordinary, one of a kind, behind the scenes type of footage.
Yeah. Well, if it is, why do you have access to something that no one else has seen before?
Serendipity, I guess. And it was recorded on the 18th
of what?
Of July, 1969. Do you remember this?
On the 18th?
Hello, Apollo 11. Houston, Goldstone says that the TV looks great. Over. Okay, Roger, Neil. We just wanted a narrative such that we can, when we get the playback, we can sort of correlate what we're seeing. Thank you very much.
Well, we shut out the sun coming in some of the other windows into the spacecraft, so it's looking through the number one window, and there isn't any reflected light. And we only have one window that has a view of the Earth, and it's filled up with the TV camera. South America becomes invisible just off beyond the terminator or inside the shadow. We can see the oceans with a definite blue cast, see white bands of major cloud formations across the Earth.
Roger, the ATC's working real well. The F-22 looks good, over. So Apollo 11, Houston, did you copy, over?
You copied, Charlie.
Roger, your transmissions the last couple of times have been about 2 by, over.
Okay, how do you read me now?
Right, you're 5 by now. Now we're coming in. Can't quite make out who that is.
What is your proposition? That we didn't go to the moon?
I know for a fact that you did. I know for a fact that you did not.
You know for a fact that we did not.
That's correct, and you'll see this tape proves that.
Okay, well, I'm not interested in satisfying your suppositions when there's all this evidence that we did.
This proves, as you see, that you were using the window to demonstrate that you were halfway to the moon when you were
Turn the camera off, please. Turn the camera off. You're full of shit.
It shows that you're in Earth orbit. Now, if the moon is 3 days away, and this is late, on the 18th, how could you possibly walk on the moon 2 days later when this was shot on the 18th?
You want me to sit in front of a camera while you're taking pictures, you're showing this, and then you want to see my reaction?
I know for a fact
that's slimy journalism. Do you realize that?
If
you ought to be ashamed of
If
yourself.
you read the document that I have in here, you'll find that it's not. That this is a personal plea to do what is right.
Well, we sit and we talk about things ahead of
This is the
time.
document that you want to see. I know for a fact.
But what it is you're trying to do is unethical. You don't believe that?
No, I do not.
Well, then we have a difference of opinion.
This is where you're using the window of the spacecraft to appear to be the Earth far away. We got the raw footage of it. We have an auxiliary track, so I'm prompting you when to speak.
You believe in UFOs?
No,
You
I do
believe
not.
we've been visited by... Well, why do
No, I
you want
don't.
to believe this stuff?
I know for a fact. We've had this analyzed, and this is the window, and and it's dated by an atomic clock at the Goldstone tracking station, which is on the tape.
Well, you're talking to the wrong guy. Why don't
were
you
there.
talk to the administrator at NASA?
Physics forums here. There's actually multiple forums like this where people come in and they're like, well, I just saw this, proof that all these scientific experiments never prove that the Earth spins around the sun. And I just want to know why they're wrong. I already know they're wrong. Just, can you guys at the physics forum tell me why they're wrong? Can you just kind of help me debunk this, right? And what's kind of funny is, what's the common thing that they come to? When they have no scientific evidence that the Earth is spinning around the sun, what do they go to? What do they go to? Well, NASA. NASA's put people up in space. What about all the spaceships that have been successfully sent to other planets? We could only have done that if our understanding of the mechanics of the solar system was sufficiently accurate. Or does that guy also deny the existence of spaceships in the moon landing? Well, you know what? Guess what? NASA was started by occultists as well. Jack Parsons was an occultist who started Jet Propulsion Laboratories. There's also another guy who started NASA itself. It was part of Operation Paperclip. That's where we imported a bunch of Nazi scientists, MK Ultra, and rocket scientists from Germany. All these guys had war crimes. They were doing unthinkable evil things. Yet America pardoned them and gave them jobs. A lot of them at NASA. Okay? And guess what? Guess what? A lot of these German scientists, rocket scientists, believed that the Earth was a concave or hollow Earth. Okay, so get this: these NASA scientists, these guys that were made NASA administrator, these guys that were Nazi war criminals, who were rocket scientists, CIA, MK Ultra guys, they were given high positions in NASA. All these occultists. Okay, NASA started by occultists, JPL started by an occultist. They import all these occultists from Germany. And these rocket scientists, a lot of them believed that we lived inside a ball. But guess what? All of a sudden, now we don't live inside a ball. Now we're on the outside of a ball. Isn't that kind of weird? Why would they all of a sudden change their mind? Unless it really had nothing to do with science and had more to do with deception. MK Ultra, deceiving the masses. This is a very interesting method to analyze pictures. Okay, it's stereoscopic method. Okay, where, as you can see here, you can see as you're moving back and forth between two perspectives, back here it doesn't move farther in the distance, and up close it moves more, obviously, right? So what they do with this methodology is they take various moon landing photos and they basically do what you see here, and then they compare the differences in movement to see how far away the landscape is in the background. Okay, so now we have sort of the data from the Apollo 15 landing. We had Commander David R. Scott, Command Module pilot Alfred M. Worden, Lunar Module pilot James B. Irwin. Okay, and then it shows sort of a topographic map of the Apollo 15 landing site here. Okay, and a series of Apollo 15 photographs will be considered the stereoscopic parallax, or apparent change in the relative positions of objects will be analyzed. Okay, and this was done by a guy who has a PhD, you know, in the Department of Physics and Technology, okay, in the Ukraine. So it's a smart dude. Okay, so we have like two pictures here, for example, he's analyzing, and he's doing this parallax with. And you see how the background's moving? See that? Okay. So, nearby objects, the LM, the rover, the astronaut Jim, are shifting relative to each other. The Apennines and the crater St. George are also moving as a whole. Moreover, the shadow is changing on the mountains and the crater. This finding indicates that it is less than 300 meters to the background. The mountains instead of 5 kilometers. Say they were claiming that it was 5 kilometers away. Therefore, with such a small alteration to the camera position in Dave's hand, several tenths of centimeters, the mountains should not move. They should remain static, zero parallax, as we saw up here with the stacks. Say it should be like that. But instead it moves when you get down here. See how it's moving? It means it's only 300 meters away, which is like less than it's about 1,000 feet. Okay, in addition, the Apollo 15 stereoscopic photos feature a clear separation line between the mountains in the foreground based on the distance between the camera and the rover. The distance to the panorama of the lunar scape cannot be more than 150 meters. Conclusion: it is very probable that these images were taken on Earth in a studio stage. To make them believe whatever they want you to believe. They want to keep you ignorant. They don't want you to know what true science is. What's funny is, here we go, this guy, this is the founder of NASA, right here, Operation Paperclip. Werner Von Braun knew the sky had glass in it. Before he died, he requested this verse from the Bible on his gravestone. Okay, kind of like he's trying to tell you something. Psalm 19:1, the heavens declare the glory of God, and the firmament sheweth his handiwork. That's so ridiculous. Firmament, pointing to a glass sky. And it's kind of funny, one of the first things NASA did was Operation, let me find it here. Okay, Operation Fishbowl. One of the first things NASA's doing, right? Okay, this is great stuff, man. I like this. High altitude rockets doing some nuke tests. Nuke tests. They're doing nuke tests up in the sky for some reason. Why would they do nuke tests up in the sky? And why would they call it fishbowl? Maybe because we're in a fishbowl? We're inside a ball? And they want to get through this glass dome that's above us? Like we're in a fishbowl? And they were nuking the this dome, trying to break through it? Isn't that a little weird? No, you're full of shit. You don't know what you're talking about. You don't know what you're talking about. I know you're thinking that, some of you. But it's kind of interesting how this all fits together. How all these guys are occultists. I mean, even Jack Parsons, okay? He was in this occultic group. Really messed up one. Parsons. This is the guy that created JPL, Jet Propulsion Laboratories, right? Rocket engineer. Also a massive occultist. What was it? The Order? Was it the Order of Set? Yeah. Okay. First thing that comes up, occult. See that? Isn't that great? I'm trying to remember what he called the group he was in. It was a really messed up cult thing. Was it the Order of Set? Order. Yeah. Yeah. Here we go. Here, this has got some of it. He was with Aleister Crowley. Okay, dude. This stuff all connects together.
The things we do outside are just like inside repairs. We have a lot of electric.
Did you hear that sound? A lot of things just clunked together at the same time, and she even dipped, and that's because they couldn't keep the plane steady in its dive. That's why that happened. She is not in an authentic zero-G environment on an international space station, because this is all bullshit.
We have a lot of electrical boxes.
You okay there, Medusa? 25 minutes long. Her hair the entire time will be in that shape. It will never change. No matter what her hair hits, or she lays down, or she flies around, the hair is supposed to be moving through air, and yet it keeps springing back into that position. They have to maintain continuity, just like in the Hollywood films. They're not always on the zero-G planes, and if they're going to fool you, her hair has to be fixed like that. So sometimes if she's wearing a harness, or she's just taking regular pictures, and you will not know the difference. It will all look the same. Space debris has to be traveling at 17,500 miles an hour, otherwise it starts accelerating towards the Earth. And they tell you that they had to go get space debris because it's such a danger. Doesn't matter what size the space debris is, if it hits you, you're dead.
Don't let the force leave you.
To keep astronauts safe. But will they work? And if astronauts do make it to Mars, what will they wear? Humans can't survive.
Look at that. They showed you some fake Apollo footage from the moon. They have no shame. The Apollo missions are ridiculous. They want you to believe we went to the moon 6 times in 4 years. They sent man to the moon 9 times, and out of those 9 times, they landed on the moon and planted 6 different flags in a 4-year period. Can you just think about that for a second? Imagine from today to 4 years from now, if we went to the moon and planted 6 flags. That's what they want you to believe that they did with 60s technology. It's been over 40 years where they don't go back. Why not send the first female astronaut to the moon if it's so safe to go to the moon and come back? We were in a space race with Russia. The countries are working together and they're lying to their own people. Our leaders get installed. Learn about Freemasons and learn of the Jesuit order. There's tremendous fraud in science. And our rights are being destroyed. That's why you need to care.
I wanted to show you this with this search here on Google. I typed in Neil Armstrong, and then I typed in Freemason, which now comes up, but when I typed it the first time, it didn't come up at all. Which means Google is basically stopping it from coming up. It's one of those searches that you're not supposed to do, right? And it may be interesting to note that a lot of these guys are Freemasons. First, I should mention that Buzz Aldrin is a Scottish Rite Freemason, and we can see here that actually he has already received his 33rd degree. Then you also have Neil Armstrong, where he carefully took out his Masonic apron and held it up for the cameras over his spacesuit. It's kind of interesting. So, yeah, there might be something to that. Do you know how they calculate the distance between the sun and the earth? There is a lot of assumptions involved with this. They start with one piece of data, factual data, which does have some underlying assumptions as well. They bounce radiometric waves off the moon, and it takes so many seconds, I think a couple seconds, to come back to Earth. And they assume that space is a vacuum. There's no other medium between Earth and the moon, which may or may not be the case. Assuming NASA is telling the truth, we would know that there isn't anything between them. But if NASA was lying to us, why would they lie to us, right? If they actually did go to the moon, then we would know for sure there is nothing but space between the Earth and the moon. Okay, now let's just assume there was just space between the Earth and the moon. Okay, and it's a vacuum, or near vacuum. So we know the speed of light in a near vacuum, and that's how we calculate the distance from Earth to the moon, and we see the size of it in the sky. We can calculate the size of the moon. From there, we can calculate the distance to the sun, assuming certain orbit, etc., assuming the heliocentric model. Now, if there is actually a substance or some sort of barrier between the Earth and the moon, intriguingly, that would change the speed of light, which would change the size of the moon, which would change the orbit of the Earth around the sun, which would change, as you can see, this is all built up on assumptions. And this astronomy that we're looking at here is sort of like, to me, a science of psychology. It's just whatever the freak you want to believe. Base it sort of on some sort of mathematical model with a ton of assumptions, and there you go, there it is. You can pretty much believe what you want. Like I said, you start with a couple facts and you build a huge, massive paradigm off it. You start with the supposed distance from the Earth to the moon, and then you go from the heliocentric model and you calculate all the rest out from there. That's assuming the heliocentric model is actually accurate. Okay, so then, and then we have the stellar parallax, which I've just showed you is complete and utter bullshit. We have no stars that just sit there and then move from one side of the sky to the other. There is none. It's complete bullshit. Then we have another factor. We don't have any, well, very few real photos of the Earth. You see these pictures here? This one is a composite. Composite. Okay, most of these are composites. This is a composite, composite. Is this? Yeah, this is the famous picture taken from, I think, Apollo 17, that's used pretty much everywhere still today. It's almost like, was it like 40 years old or something, and we're still using it. So I mean, all we have is fake-ass pictures. Okay? I guess the question you have to ask yourself is, do you believe NASA? Now, my brother told me about one of his friends that works at NASA. And he was telling me kind of his work environment and how secretive it was. And that when he had been given a project, he actually literally had no clue what anyone else was working on. Okay? Now, I'm an engineer. And This to me seemed a little interesting how it was being described, because I actually have a friend who had a security clearance working at a company in Indiana where he designed mounts for guns on aquatic and land vehicles for the military. And he had to have a clearance. And I actually was interviewed by the FBI for his security clearance. And what was interesting was he was telling me sort of the things that they were working on at his business. He doesn't work there anymore. He actually, I think he's had a couple jobs since then, actually. I think he had a job at Dell after that, and then he had another job that he's working at now, which is completely unrelated. But this place he was working at, I can't remember the name, again, they were designing, he was designing mounts for guns on aquatic and land vehicles. And he was telling me all the stuff that they were doing, and he knew all about various things that they were working on. Okay? And they had to kind of keep certain things, they couldn't say certain things. And my friend's strictly by the book, so, you know, he's one of those guys that's really, you know, does the right thing kind of guy. But I just thought it was interesting how the guys at NASA don't have a clue what anybody around them are doing. But this guy, who is actually designing something for a weapon and has security clearance, can tell me various things that they're doing at their company. You see what I'm getting at? NASA's not designing weaponry here, okay? They work and cooperate with many different nations. So there's really no purpose to all the secrecy if you think about it. Why would they need this much secrecy? You see what I'm getting at? You should be able to know what others are working on around you. Now, one of the arguments a lot of people have, you know, backing up NASA, saying, oh, look how many thousands and thousands of employees work for NASA. I mean, if it was a hoax or if it was fake, they would all know it. Not if it's like what my brother described. I mean, I didn't ask my brother to tell me about his friend. I didn't even know his friend worked at NASA, and I actually know this guy, okay? And I actually know his brother as well, and his brother was a Navy SEAL. I don't want to get into all that, but I guess their family's kind of interesting because one was a Navy SEAL and the other one worked for NASA. But all I got to say is that if everybody's that secretive there, it seems to me like it'd be very easy to keep people in the dark. If you have no clue what anybody else is working on around you. You see what I'm getting at? So it actually makes sense that that would work for that type of setup if you didn't want anybody to know what's really going on.